We don't do dinosaurs. No, we don't do dinosaurs.
All right, so hey everybody, we are back. Wow, and everything's shaky. As you can see, I have moved. I am not even close to unpacked or really set up, so this is it. This is what you get. I know this is a day late. Hopefully I can get this out today on Wednesday, but you know, forgive me, I moved and it was not a great move. We had a lot of sudden issues and I hate moving. So anyway, on to something I enjoy far better. Oh, America Unearthed. Episode 3 came out while I was moving and I was able to get access to it. So we're gonna watch it. It's tantalizingly called The Cave of Secrets. I don't know anything about it. I have purposefully not looked anything up. And yeah, so let's get into the show. Cave of Secrets. Is that dude got a sack on his head? Good lord. I bet we're doing Masons again. God, he loves his Masons. Anyway. Onward. Yep, it's a dude with a bag on his head. Oh, we're doing the Baphomet thing. So he's gonna go with the story of the Knights Templar were worshipping Baphomet. Can I say, as I think I do every time I do one of these, the little horror movies that are right in front of the beginning of these episodes are actually pretty fun. Like, I feel like you could just kind of chop all those off. Maybe I will. And just make like a horror movie compilation. Anyway, they also kind of prime the pump, you know, you set up this concept of mystery or secrets, or in this case, evil, because it's Baphomet and the evil Templars. And yeah, so then when we get into the actual show, it looks like Walter stepping into the role of the inquisitive hero, the everyman who is going to go forward and against all odds find all of these wonderful little hidden secrets that are being kept from him by everyone because reasons. I still haven't figured out why archaeology and archaeologists would be covering up the existence of ancient civilizations when it's like literally our jobs. Anyway. Dude, it's in my backyard! I'm totally going there after this.
I'm on my way to Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, the
Hell yeah,
oldest
you
town
are.
in the state's Cumberland Valley.
Not the oldest town in Pennsylvania.
Known for its tireless support of the Patriot Army in the American Revolution.
Right, over the north.
This area has a lot of historic homes and colonial charm.
Okay, totally, I'm going there now. This place is so cute! Of course, he's there during Christmas, so it's always nicer during Christmas, but still, oh my god! Also, we didn't
But
get
I'm
snow
here
this
to
Christmas.
see something else. The site of a mystery that has haunted a local man for more than...
Why do we always have so much footage of Scott Walter driving a car? There is in every episode, nearly every episode, like 30 seconds to a minute of Walter driving a car. Sometimes he talks on a cell phone while he's driving the car. Why? And there's always like epic music playing in the background, but it doesn't take away from the fact that we're just watching this man drive a car.
3 decades. A cave that he claims is filled with clues to a clandestine past. As a geologist, I can tell you that there are thousands of caves hidden in this part of Pennsylvania.
As an archaeologist, I can tell you that too, because I can use Google.
Thanks to massive amounts of limestone underground for hundreds of thousands of years. And they hide their secrets in there. Probably the most famous is...
So we immediately... we go from, hey, I found a cave when I was 12 years old, how cool is that, to Walter immediately jumping into, well, you know, caves are where secret things happen. Oh, people store all kinds of secret stuff in there, and they do secret rituals and all this other kind of secret stuff in caves. No one asked. He just, like, starts with that. There's no preamble, there's no lead up, there's nothing. It's just Walter meets this guy who says, I found a cave when I was a kid, and Walter immediately starts talking about secret cave mysteries. And it's just, where the hell did that come from? If that was a normal person, they would probably be like, okay, and then back away slowly.
Where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found outside of Jerusalem back in the late 1940s. And in 2013, I saw another cave a few hours from here. I figured out that one was used by a secret society for rituals after discovering an intricately carved basin where people could have been baptized to symbolize a spiritual awakening.
He found a spring house. I saw that episode. I reviewed that episode. It's a spring house. It's clearly a spring house because there's a spring and it's a laid brick it's a spring house.
Chris says his family put the doors on, but everything inside was there when he found the entrance in 1981.
Yeah, I'm sure no one has ever gone in there and altered anything in the entire history of this cave since it was discovered and these doors were built. And all of these people came to look at the cave, traipsing in and out to the point where they flattened the grass in his front yard. I'm sure there has been no alteration to this cave.
Wow, look at that.
There's so many problems already. And we're not even, like, we're 6.5 minutes in, and, like, the number of assumptions that are just being thrown out there, completely baseless, without evidence. Walter's just throwing stuff out there without any kind of explanation as to why. It's problematic at best. Anyway.
I'm hoping I can still 100% sure that this isn't just the letter L. I see a W here, and then could be an R, possibly a T. Yeah, I can buy that as initials. Maybe that might tell us something about who is using the cave. Do we know who that might be? I have no idea who that is.
God forbid we do any kind of research before we go crawling into a cave as to who the past landowners were of this particular piece of property. Seeing as it's one of the oldest cities in Pennsylvania, there certainly wouldn't be any kind of written record telling you who might have lived there.
There's a lot of...
I mean, just judging from what I've seen so far, it looks like a cellar. It looks like an old cellar. I wouldn't be surprised if when they find, if they even go back to the plat maps, that they'll find that there was a house there at some point, or a house nearby, and that's either a spring house, because like you said, the water there was there when he found the place. So it wouldn't be a terrible place for water for a spring house, but spring house is also usually doubled as like cold storage because they're usually cold. So yeah, finding a natural cave on your property in your backyard would be a very logical place to modify it by putting, I don't know, steps in it, and then having a flatter area farther down where you could have storage. Pennsylvania has a really high water table in general. So, and this is like, just judging by the decorations when you drove through town, I mean, this is kind of like the Christmassy time. And if this was last year, we didn't get a lot of snow, but we got a crap ton of rain. So yeah, the water table rose significantly over the winter. So yeah, if this is filmed in the winter, which it kind of looks like maybe it was, maybe the late fall, yeah, there was going to be a lot of water there. So I don't know. I would think if you had a spring house, you would want it to be a little bit more, I don't know, like the water be a little bit more contained. Like this would be a perfect well, but I don't know why you would have steps going down to a well. So my guess is that it's a cellar of some variety.
In thinking about the clues we had, that was the first time and only time that a sitting president actually led troops into battle. Really? Yeah.
Well, I mean, his name was General Washington, and he did fight in the Revolutionary War. So it probably wasn't too weird that Washington led an army.
just make
Also, Walter's statement of, that was the first time a sitting president ever led an army. It was George Washington. There wasn't a president before him. Who else would have led a sitting army? Why does Walter get all the cool toys? Somebody needs to give me cool toys. This is kind of neat. What is it? It's like a camera in a tank. It's neat. Oh, it's got little propellers on the back.
So here we are, of literally to the bottom of this cave and what might be in there. The thing about caves is they hold a lot of secrets. This cave certainly holds some secrets. We know there's been some activity there. We might uncover some things that'll tell us more about the history of...
These guys look really uncomfortable talking to Walter about his cave and his cave secrets. Like, maybe they're just uncomfortable on film, but they look kind of uncomfortable in general.
Shippensburg, maybe even American history, we don't know.
You had us at Water-filled Cave.
We saw some very interesting things, maybe some more artifacts. There's a gold ring down there.
It's not a gold ring.
Well, let's go over and take a look on the tablet, but did you see any carvings, any writings? What'd you see?
Well, I could probably see a little better than you did, but no, I couldn't see anything on the walls. They were silk covered, and really until I got back to the back of the room is where the visibility improved a little bit.
So you didn't see any more inscriptions, you didn't see any more writing on the cave?
In the water, no, you couldn't see anything on the walls.
The fact that the dates are gone tells me history has already been lost. If other carvings were down here, those were washed away too. Meaning, I can't date anything deep inside the cave to prove when people were here. Sites like these need to be paid attention to and preserved before critical clues to our past disappear.
I'm not really sure what Walter thinks could be done in this kind of a situation. The land is private, so it would have been up to the landowners to go forward with any form of preservation. And they did. They put a lid over it and honestly did the thing that they should have done, is just kind of cut it off and make it inaccessible to people. I think Walter thinks that when it comes to archaeology, like, there's some government entity that just kind of steps in and takes over whenever something archaeological is discovered. And that's not how it works. If the landowners, you know, they own the land, it's theirs. It's up to them to take care of it. And on top of it, the article did document this, and there's a map of the area, so it looks like somebody at least got in there and did some documentation of it. It's just, you know, he's hoping that he's going to find some scratches or some chisel marks or something that he can interpret as some kind of, like, ancient evil cult. But since he can't get in there to see, he can't do that this time. So now he's trying to make it sound like, almost kind of making it sound like the loss of all of this was purposeful, which I'm sure is what he's going to come back around to. He's somehow going to blame it on the local authorities and how they let it go. And therefore he can be like, it's a cover-up, which it's not. I mean, if the state doesn't even know it's there, and even if they did, if the landowners won't let the state come in, I mean, there's only so much you can do. And this thing is filled with natural groundwater. You can't stop groundwater. It's groundwater. You know? Anyway. Sometimes I just wonder what Scott Walter, or how Scott Walter thinks these things actually work, because the things he says and implies on his show do not line up with reality of any form. But anyway.
What about my golden ring?
Your golden ring, right there.
That's my golden ring. It's actually a root.
I couldn't tell it was a root until I got right up on it. It did look like a ring.
Okay, so
Told you it wasn't gold.
we checked it out, so I feel good about that. We still have our two dates, 1896, 1794. They're documented in the newspapers, even though we couldn't see them. I think these initial...
Okay, hang on. I need to back up real fast. Yep. Okay, so there's gas line markers within spitting distance of where they're standing, that means that if those went in, and those are modern, if those went in, that means the area was surveyed, which means that someone has found this cave prior and it has been documented somewhere. Walter just isn't doing the background research to find out where or who. So whoever put this gas line in hired some archaeologists at some point to come in and survey before that line was put in. And they are close enough to that corridor that that cave would have fallen within the survey area, which means that cave would have been recorded. I'm just saying, there's a record of that cave out there, and Walter's acting like there isn't. Probably because he doesn't know. Because he probably doesn't know that he can go to the state of Pennsylvania and ask for the records and ask to see the survey records. And if he has the right credentials or sends someone with the right credentials, the state will let them look at it. And you don't even have to have like crazy top secret clearance or anything. You just have to not be a wackadoo. And even then I think you can be a wackadoo. You just have to go to the state and ask, basically. These things are kept for a reason. And yeah, no, I'm just like, this narrative that he's trying to build here is complete BS.
Our two dates, 1896.
Oh, now you're going to the
I'm on my
Historical
way to
Society.
meet David Beto. He's a historian who knows all about the Knights of the Golden Eagle.
He probably knows about
I
the
told
cave,
him about
too.
Chris's cave, and he's excited to help. So, David, what I really want to know is if there's a connection between the cave and this.
This is fascinating. Knights of the Golden Eagle was founded in 1872. It grew to be a very large organization, about 70,000 members and 250 lodges. More than half of them were in Pennsylvania. They would provide insurance, unemployment benefits, sickness benefits, and a way for somebody to kind of build connections in the community.
Let's go back to our cave. The original landowner we know was D. Edwin Hamilton. Is there any possible connection with him and the Knights of the Golden Eagle?
This is an article from 1892. Down there, we have the name of one of the first members of the organization in Shippensburg, and it was
D. Edwin Hamilton.
That's right.
You gotta be kidding me.
Okay, so see what you can learn when you do background research?
More that you might know?
Part of their ceremony focuses very much on a cave. Here is Lucifer with his trident in the middle. Here is the fallen knight. This is someone that had gone astray. Here's the most interesting character here. This is the venerable hermit. This is the man in charge of the cave. He leads them to the cave. He provides this lesson, and the lesson includes things like a human skull. They'll have the symbolic skeleton of the founder of the organization. They would try to teach various moral lessons. Don't get on your high horse. Realize that we're all going to end up like this.
Well, you're hitting on all cylinders,
Well, at least it explains the little horror movie from the beginning.
David, because what you just described is something that I've actually, but in Masonry there is something we call the Chamber of Reflection, where you
Is
go
he
in.
supposed to be talking about this on camera? I thought it was a super secret thing that no one else could know about except Masons and male Masons at that. Walter, giving away ancient Masonic secrets on camera like that. Don't you know what happened to Amadeus?
Could do all of that in a
Just when I think I have one thing figured out, David sends my investigation in a whole different direction, toward a possibility that had been lingering in the back of my mind ever since I realized how close this cave is to what was the Mason-Dixon line.
Of course it was.
I have heard that caves in Pennsylvania and Franklin County
It was so close to the front of his mind that he never mentioned it as a possibility until now.
were used for another purpose, to hide things,
Hide what?
people.
I've used this cave as a hiding place.
Pennsylvania had a very important figure in the history of the Underground Railroad. His name was William Still. He was really one of the pioneers in the Underground Railroad, and he was a meticulous record keeper. Harriet Tubman, she would often go to Still with slaves and get them out of the country.
Not just any historian, but a Still family member who was motivated so much.
So he's willing to swallow hook, line, and sinker that the cave was used for old rituals, old fraternal rituals, but the fact that the cave might have been used for the Underground Railroad, that's a bridge too far. He needs more evidence for that one.
By his work, that she pursued a master's degree in African American studies. And Valerie Still also had what we came here to see.
Well, this is the Underground Railroad Journal kept by your ancestor, William Still. It's absolutely the original cover, and there's something here I really want you to see.
Oh, look at her face. That is so sweet. I really hate that that's happening on this show.
And here it says Harriet Tubman on the top. So this is William Still. He wrote this, but he's saying that Harriet Tubman brought through this group of people.
Arrived. John Chase, now Dan Lloyd.
That's right.
Benjamin Ross, now John Stewart. This is Henry Ross, now Levin Stewart.
So he lists all the
Wow,
names
that's what he always
of the escaped slaves as they came, and then also their new assumed name.
That's why William's so important, because he documented all that. Because they didn't want to leave their family, and so the whole point was maybe
That's right.
William could connect them. Or
Absolutely. And
That's amazing. What a wonderful thing.
At least one cave in Shippensburg was used to harbor slaves.
I don't know why that's so hard. Why he's trying to make that seem like it's so weird that they would be using the caves as hiding places. Because why wouldn't you? They used caves, they used cellars, they used spare rooms, they used, barns. They used whatever they could to hide people and move people. Like, why is he... And he starts this whole episode off with, there are so many hundreds of caves in the Pennsylvania area. Why is he making it seem so far-fetched that they would be using the caves as part of the Underground Railroad? Like, he's working really hard to create that scarcity idea about the caves and the railroad connection, which is just... But yet if you say, oh, it might have been a meeting place for a secret society, he would be all over that without any need for verification. But for some reason, this whole thing about the Underground Railroad, he's acting like he needs all of the data before he can make his mind up.
And I think there's a good chance Chris Courtney's, and that's what I want to be too. Someone on a quest to illuminate the forgotten pieces of our past so we can all be more informed in the present.
And that right there, I think, sums up Walter's philosophy. So, okay. This was an interesting episode. Not just because... Well, no, this was an interesting episode. And part of what... Hello, neighbors. Part of what makes this episode so interesting is the Underground Railroad connection. This is probably one of the very few times... I think this is like the only time I've ever seen this show try to make logical connections. And on the one hand, I'm like... on the one hand, I'm really proud, I guess. Impressed. I'm impressed. I'm impressed the show went there and didn't just keep trying to, like, pound away at the whole, like, secret society idea. Or the whiskey running idea. The two more adventurous, outlandish ideas. And the whiskey running really isn't that outlandish, really. But the whole secret society thing, we know he loves those. But what I am very impressed with is how the show handled the Underground Railroad aspect, which, again, really, when you boil the show down, Walter didn't prove anything. Like, none of this has been proven. Everything he said in this show is pure speculation. But he did some interesting research, and he actually showed himself doing actual research, which I think is kind of neat. Running into the descendant of William Stills was amazing, and I really did appreciate seeing that. But again, I'm really sorry it had to happen on a show like this. Still, so I don't know. I have slightly mixed emotions about the show just because the topic is important to me and blah blah blah. But when you boil the show down completely and totally and you remove all of the emotional aspects of it and you look at it logically as I would look at any of the other shows, there is no evidence for any of the claims that Walter made in this show. He found disarticulated pieces of a lot of things. He found no evidence for his whiskey running thing. He just found water and then jumped from water to whiskey running because you need water to brew whiskey. Therefore, all water apparently exists for whiskey. Whatever. His fraternal order thing, maybe there's something there. I wouldn't be upset about someone presenting that and then asking to do research on it because, you know, there's, if, and that's a huge if that emblem was found on the property, and we know that the property was owned by the guy's name I forgot already, and he was one of the founding members of the Fraternal Order of the Golden Eagle, then yeah, that's actually some solid connections that would kind of make you wonder about the cave in that aspect. So yeah, you might want to go look at the cave looking for evidence of the Fraternal Order. So that one almost made it. The Underground Railroad one, there's really no connection between that cave and the Underground Railroad. What we got told and how the story was spun was there's a cave and there was also this guy named William Stills, and the William Stills guy was part of the Underground Railroad. And they both happen to be in Pennsylvania. That's pretty much the only connection between that cave and William Stills that we were provided with. So, as much as I enjoy the Underground Railroad and I value the Underground Railroad, and the whole scene with the descendant was incredibly touching, but there's nothing connecting the two. And there's certainly nothing connecting the second cave that he went to go look at with the first cave that he looked at, or with the Underground Railroad story, though the second cave was a lot more roomy. So yeah. The other thing about this whole Underground Railroad connection is Walter acted like he needed more evidence to be believing about the Underground Railroad than he needed for secret societies and untraceable rum running. And that is kind of irritating to me when he does that crap, because it's like he's trying to act like he's being, you know, critical minded and doing his research and stuff. And in reality, he's just not. That's not what's happening. If he was that critical about every aspect of his show, there would be a crap ton more research. He would have already known who owned that property before he went out there to look at that cave. He would already know the history of the first owner of that property that the cave was on. He would already know about the Eagles. He would already know all these things that he acted like he didn't know anything about in this show. Maybe he did, and just for whatever reason, they recorded the show in a way to make it look like he didn't, but that's actually really bad. That's bad. You, as an archaeologist and as a historian, you never go out to some place that you don't know anything about. Even when I go to do a phase 1 survey, which literally is I go out in the wild and start digging holes, the people who own the company that hired me have already done all of the background research. They already know who owns all the property. They know who owned the property as far back as the documents will take them. They know about every survey that's happened in that area before we even get out there. They've looked at all of the reports. They have access to stuff. They already know it's been found. I mean, that's the point. So when we get out there, yeah, we may be in an area that hasn't been surveyed before, but we're aware of the history of the area around it. Walter in the show is acting like he didn't know anything about anything before he even got out there, which is bad scholarship. So it was neat watching the process unfold in the show. And again, I keep coming back to the Underground Railroad thing because it is an emotional button for a lot of people. So yeah, that kind of gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling. But you have to look past that with this show, and it's just like every other show in the season. Even though it's not as ridiculous, it is still not supported by evidence, not supported by facts. He's, again, just grasping at straws to make connections where there aren't necessarily connections, though he does have at least a thread that he really could follow up on if he wanted to, but Walter won't do things the right way, so he'll never do the archaeology to verify the Fraternal Order angle there. And that is also assuming everything in this show is factual, which, again, I haven't had a chance to verify any of this, so I am just going blind by this show. When I do the write-up, I might change my tune. There might be something I discover when I do finally start researching this show. But as it stands right now, it's like, it was a neat topic. It was a good topic. It was not the worst show that they've done, but it still didn't verify, didn't prove anything. It was still grasping at straws, still making random connections, no proof for anything. Anyway, now I'm just repeating myself. So, again, thanks for bearing with me while I move, and thanks for putting up with my big-ass long rant. And yeah, so if you like what you're seeing, click on some of the links in the comments, like and share, and I guess subscribe because it's on YouTube and that's what you're supposed to do, and, let your friends know about me because I like sharing my views with everyone. I feel like they all need to know what I think. Anyway, see you guys next time.